Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to your news edition. These are the headlines. Algeria condemns the policies imposed to the Palestinian people in the context of the genocidal war and reaffirms its devotion to continue its diplomatic efforts in order to support the Palestinian people. After a chaotic humanitarian situation in Gaza, the world has finally recognized that the Palestinians are suffering from famine. The Algerian television documented the horrible conditions caused by starvation, especially among children. Algeria participates in the 2025 Agra Fair for Agriculture and Food in Slovenia, an opportunity to reinforce the bilateral cooperation. In France, François Bayrou continues its provocations towards the French people with more austerity in his decisions. Welcome back. For the first time in the history of Palestine and the Middle East region, the United Nations has officially declared on Friday a state of famine in the Gaza Strip. What most arouses indignation and disapproval is that this fully observed state of famine is not dictated by a case of force majeure, but constitutes a political choice and the result of the planning of the Zionist occupier. The declared state of famine is no way unrelated to the forced displacement project, nor to the project of reoccupation of Gaza, or even less, to the so-called the Greater Israel Project. Algeria firmly condemns these policies imposed to the Palestinian people in the context of the genocidal war and calls on the international community, particularly the United Nations Security Council, to assume its responsibilities by taking the collective required action to cancel the so-called Greater Israel Project and preserve the foundations of the two-state solution as a solution for a lasting and definitive settlement of the Palestinian conflict. As a member of the Security Council, Algeria reaffirms its devotion to continue its diplomatic efforts aiming to support the Palestinian people and put on an end to this unprecedented human disaster, as well as accelerate the establishment of the independent and sovereign Palestinian state with Al-Quds al-Sharif as its capital. In Gaza, the recent Zionist escalations have forced over 790,000 Palestinians to leave their homes, obliging them to survive in inhuman conditions. Najah Tiyar.
Desperate and exhausted, their voices trembling with pain and anger at a world that continues to look away. The few Gazans who still have access to internet cry out for help, speaking of hunger, grief, and unimaginable suffering inflicted by the Zionist entity who's determined to wipe them out, trapping them in a situation over which the latest United Nations report sounds the alarm, describing it as catastrophic, where more than 500,000 people in Gaza are now trapped in famine, a chilling figure accompanied by a threefold increase in the number of people suffering from acute malnutrition that is expected to even worsen rapidly by June 2026. The siege and policy of starvation imposed by the Zionist entity have already claimed the lives of 272 Palestinians, including 113 children, according to the latest data from Gaza's health authorities.
Pour la première fois, des gens meurent de faim.
For the first time, people are dying of hunger. More than 200 people have reportedly died from starvation, and the number is expected to rise. There is no doubt 1 in 3 children in central and northern Gaza is severely malnourished. Many of them will not survive. The Netanyahu government is deliberately using famine as a weapon of war while hiding behind a form of denial that is completely unacceptable. Frankly, it is obscene, and I choose my words carefully when I say this. Gaza is now facing an extreme risk of famine. I know this situation has developed gradually, but today we have two indicators that have crossed the famine threshold. 1 in 3 people in Gaza goes several days without eating, and the malnutrition rate has surpassed the critical threshold, now above 16.5% at present, and more than 32,000 young children are at risk of acute malnutrition. On top of starvation comes the agony of forced displacement, and thousands of Palestinian families bombed out of their homes are crammed into so-called safe zones, which often become targets themselves. For over 1 million Palestinians trapped in Gaza, the siege tightens as they prepare for yet another assault. Around 18,000 children have died, and the rest are now facing famine. This ongoing tragedy must compel us to immediately suspend all collaborations with the Zionist entity. In Gaza, devastation hangs in the air, and every inch of the shattered land bears witness to the relentless violence of the Zionist entity. At the center of this tragedy are innocent children, starving and dying each day, victims of a fate they never chose. The UN Security General Antonio Guterres has condemned the famine as a man-made catastrophe and a failure of humanity. He has also renewed his call for an immediate ceasefire and urged sanctions against the occupying power.
As part of strengthening the economic partnership between Algeria and Slovenia, and following the official visit of the President of the Republic, Abdelmadjid Tebboune, on last May, Algeria is participating in the International Agriculture and Food Fair Agra 2025 in Gornja Radogna from the 23rd to the 28th of August. The Ministry of Foreign Trade and Export Promotion will supervise the Algerian pavilion, and 15 national agricultural and food companies will be present at this event. This participation is a strategic phase in improving the bilateral cooperation between Algeria and Slovenia, which offers new perspectives to the Algerian products. And Algeria will host the 4th edition of the Intra-African Trade Fair next September. The event is of great importance for the country's economic transition. The 2025 IATF is an opportunity to reaffirm and implement Algeria's aspirations for the African development. More details with Daniel Bahri.
As the third largest African economy with a gross domestic product of nearly $270 billion in 2024, Algeria has established itself as a leading country in various economic sectors such as energy, agriculture, agri-food industry and services, making it an economic driver for the continent's development. According to a report by the World Bank Group, Algeria has moved into the upper middle income bracket according to the new annual update of the classification of member countries' economies. Acclaimed by various international institutions, Algeria's economic performance is based in particular on diversification strategy, with industry accounting for nearly 50% of new investments recorded by the Algerian Investment Promotion Agency. With the largest land area in Africa and land borders shared with 7 other countries, Algeria enjoys a strategic geographical position. Its Mediterranean location gives it proximity to Europe, while its depth in Africa provides privileged access to the continent's markets. Its Human Development Index, developed by the United Nations Development Programme, ranks among the highest in Africa. The country also boasts competitive potential in various growth sectors, particularly startups, enabling it to establish lasting partnerships thanks to a solid industrial base, a modern infrastructure network, and diversified means of transportation. In terms of hydrocarbons, Algeria remains the major player, establishing itself as one of the continent's leading producers and exporters of oil and natural gas through the national company Sonatrach, recognized as the largest oil and gas company in Africa. Algeria in the economic field is a very important actor in Africa for regional and sub-regional integration. We have a lot of hope on the occasion of this fair, which will be organized in Algeria, to be successful in terms of integration. Regarding the agricultural sector, efforts undertaken in recent years have transformed this sector into a true lever for the country's food security, ensuring its self-sufficiency and generating surpluses for export. These achievements have been praised several times by the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, which ranked Algeria among the best performing African countries in terms of food security. Efforts to diversify the economy have enabled the emergence of key sectors, notably the startup sector, which now numbers around 9,000. Algeria has set a target of 20,000 by the end of 2029. Host an annual African Startup Conference with participating investors from several countries on the continent. The stated ambition to raise the national economy to the rank of the second or even the first African economy, as President Abdelmadjid Tebboune emphasized. These potentials, economists believe, will enable Algeria to play a major economic role in Africa and constitute a strategic asset for accelerating the continent's trade and economic integration.
Guinea, a closer partner of Algeria, will attend the Intra-African Trade Fair in Algiers, reaffirming its commitment to strengthening the bilateral cooperation, as stated by the ambassador of Guinea to Algeria, Abdulrahman Sikhe Kamara. Najah Tiyar with the details.
Defying the colonial dominance, Guinea became a trailblazer on October 2, 1958, as the first sub-Saharan African nation to reject France's presence and reclaim its independence. It went further by fully financing one of the GPRA's earliest diplomatic missions, granting the Algerian Revolution a critical foothold in Africa. This bold act of solidarity, however, came at a high cost, exposing Guinea to harsh economic reprisals, including severe restrictions on foreign investment and development aid. Guinea served as a stronghold for Algeria, supporting the Algerian people in their struggle to achieve independence. Even before Algeria gained its sovereignty, Guinea stood firmly by its side. Some of the first great heroes of Algeria's independence were supported from Guinea, and several Algerian leaders even held Guinean passports. Today, both nations are determined to renew and strengthen this historic bond through a partnership built on mutual benefit. In the energy sector, as you know, Algeria occupies an extremely important position in Africa, and this is an area in which Guinea is increasingly interested in Algerian expertise. Opportunities are currently being explored not only in energy, but also in agriculture and mining. As you know, Guinea is a major mining country, holding 2/3 of the world's bauxite reserves and ranking as the second largest exporter of bauxite globally. This joint cooperation commission dates back several years, and we intend to revive it, particularly in the areas of defense, security and training. Many Guineans from various fields wish to receive training in Algeria, and we hope to see the maximum number of Algerian scholarships granted to Guinean students. We are also very pleased to know that in the medical field, many Guinean students are already enrolled in the Algerian universities. One of the most important aspects is the restoration of air traffic between Algeria and Guinea, as well as the opening of a banking institution. We also have discussed the maritime sector, including the establishment of a shipping line between Algeria and Guinea. During the IATF, a major Guinean delegation will visit Algiers to highlight the country's vast opportunities and untapped potential. This initiative not only reinforces African economic integration, but also challenges lingering neo-colonial strategies. Algeria, which is set to host the event for the fourth time, from September 4th to the 10th, has always successfully met this challenge. Guinea will be represented by economic operators who will soon be present. A major Guinean delegation is also expected in Algeria to participate, to learn, to exchange ideas and also to share knowledge, at the very least to showcase the resources and potentials we possess. The notion of the neo-colonialism also cannot be dismissed. What must be remembered is that Algeria and Guinea share the same philosophy on this matter and aim to overcome the neo-colonialism, which is essentially an attempt to deprive African nations of their sovereignty and freedom in decision-making. On this front, Guinea and Algeria are aligned. We share the same political vision.
La Guinée et l'Algérie, de ce côté-là, ont la même philosophie politique.
Ultimately, the IATF represents a strategic moment to lay the foundations for genuine continental unity, driving an Africa that is sovereign in its political choices and economic future.
In France, the lack of political and economic vision in the decisions of the French government has plunged the country into complete uncertainty, opening an ideological umbrella for the extreme right and its policies. The situation in the country is now on a hot plate, threatening further escalation in the upcoming days. Details with Daniel Bahri.
In a social scene that is touching on the decline of the French street, especially after François Bayrou government announced a package of drastic austerity measures that will further complicate the lives of French citizens. We strongly note the social demands and denounce Bayrou's budget. In line with our analysis, matters regarding this policy have been extremely unclear since Prime Minister François Bayrou announced that he wanted to save more than 43 billion euro in the 2026 budget. The absurdity of the far-right's political decision has met with strong opposition from unions, human rights organizations and political actors in the country, particularly regarding the cancellation of some annual holidays and the forcing of some institutions to pay heavy fines to the government funds. Jean-Luc Mélenchon called on September 10th to be a day of siege and a date for a general strike. He asked to call for greater tax justice and the rejection of Bayrou's plan for the French budget for 2026. Reactions from unions and organizations have raised their hand in rejecting the far-right's policies. The failed government is working to dismantle the social system due to crises such as immigration and security, rather than offering convincing solutions and answers to the French public. We have more than 300,000 people signing. It's an important point to start the mobilization, and then the mobilization for us begins now. From Monday, Radio France will be on strike. The following Monday, hospitals in Paris will follow, and on September 2nd, the energy employees will continue and will be on strike. France's debt rising by 5,000 euro every second is used as a long-discussed but unrealized social argument. The Bayrou government and its ill-considered policies based on the extreme right's calculations on several sensitive issues have prompted French citizens to demand their rights amid France's boastful slogans of respecting human rights and freedoms.
And with this, we come to the end of our edition. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us. Have a good night.